Discover the incredible journey. A cleaner touching action revealed life-changing secrets at the crossroads of compassion and courage. Emma scrubbed the floor of the Thompson mansion, knees pressed against the hardwood, everything aching from a long day's work. Each stroke of her mop wasn't just to keep the floor shining but for her children, Jenna and Max. Every cent she earned meant groceries, rent, life's little battles that took everything she had. Her heart tightened daily against the pressure of the world bills piling up, her sleepless nights stretching on like the shadows in her dimly lit home. Yet, each morning, as they sat around their modest table, she poured a bit of herself into the kids. Every challenge has a lesson, Emma would tell them, her voice soft yet resolute. She spun tales of resilience, instilling in Jenna and Max a belief that hard work coupled with love could carve their paths. Hope flickered in their young eyes, too, ignited by her spirit hard as steel, tender as a mother's embrace. One fateful afternoon, while elbow-deep in cleaning products at the Thompsons' grand estate, disaster struck. "Mr. Thompson," she gasped as she saw him collapsed on the floor. Without a second thought, she dropped her tools and rushed to his side. Her hands trembled but guided her instincts, she checked his pulse and called for help. Minutes felt like eternities, but in that precarious moment, she held the thread of his life in her hands. They shared fleeting glances, and something real sparked between them. Between breaths, he opened up about his regrets, a family fractured by old wounds, dreams unfulfilled in the name of duty. Emma felt each shared secret resonate within her, igniting parts of her she thought had turned to ash. They became comrades in hardship, grounded in a shared humanity that transcended the wealth surrounding them. But once Mr. Thompson's affluent family arrived, the tide shifted. Dismissive and determined, they brushed Emma aside, intent on whisking him away to a care facility as if he were an inconvenient piece of furniture. Anger flared inside Emma. This wasn't just about Mr. Thompson, it was about dignity, about respect. As she stood her ground against their haughty attitude, a wellspring of resolve surged within her. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. As their confrontation escalated, the observations from neighbors filtered in a mix of whispers and gasps. Emma stood tall, hands clenched, speaking of bonds formed in vulnerability and kindness. The room thickened with tension, hearts raced, and pride clashed with compassion. People began to murmur, recognizing the rawness of her fight. Suddenly, the very ground beneath them shook as a piece of news changed everything. Would the community rally behind the vulnerable, or would money and power overshadow human connection? As the argument reached fever pitch, questions hung heavy in the air. What mattered more, status or sincerity? As that fateful moment approached, Emma felt her resolve strengthen, her heart beating in sync with the weight of lives at stake. With everything on the line, would she fight for Mr. Thompson and herself against the odds stacked against them all? Emma's heart raced as the fray intensified, swirling around her like a tempest. She caught sight of Mr. Thompson's half-opened eyes, a flicker of awareness shining through. "Don't leave me," she whispered, though it was meant for both of them. The world around them had become a cacophony, but in this moment of raw connection, it felt painfully quiet. Neighbors began to gather outside, drawn by the commotion. They peeked through the windows, curiosity etched on their faces. Emma sensed them. Many knew her, had seen her hard work, the struggles she faced day in and day out. With every audible gasp from the crowd, she felt their energy pulse through her, amplifying her courage. "Why don't you care?" Emma's voice rose, rich with determination. "This man taught me the value of kindness. In a split second, he shared his pain with me. He's not just your father, he's a human being." The Thompson family exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from irritation to disbelief. The eldest son, Derek, stepped forward, a scowl plastered across his face. "You're crossing a line, Emma. This isn't your fight, you're just our cleaner. Being a cleaner doesn't make me any less." She shot back, soul ignited. "You might look at me and see a title. But I see a life worth fighting for. Your father deserves that." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Emma could see it in their eyes, admiration mixed with disbelief. They could hardly fathom the glittering mansion surrounding them, now drowning in vulnerability. Mr. Thompson's family stood, a fortress of privilege, teetering at the brink of empathy. Yet behind that wall, she sensed some cracks, moments where their righteous anger faltered and understanding flickered. As the argument pressed forward, Emma's mind raced. She could score points and lose herself in the fervor. But what would that achieve? The people before her needed more than just a debate, they needed a change of heart. What if, she paused, searching the crowd, what if we chose compassion over indifference? A flicker of hope caught in her throat as she spoke, her voice steady. What if we recognize that love and connection don't depend on wealth? Derek hesitated, his brow furrowed as he glanced toward the murmuring crowd. Emma pressed on, sensing the tide subtly shift. Once you detach from titles, you see the person beneath, the father who loves his children, the man with regrets and dreams unrealized. Don't you want him to have a say? Don't you want to give him that dignity? Stop it. One of the Thompson daughters shouted, her voice breaking. But Emma continued, undeterred. The energy around them changed, tension melting into question. Several bystanders nodded, small gestures of solidarity, the glimmer of community igniting hope. In this moment, Emma was no longer just a cleaner, she was a voice screaming to be heard, a beacon for the voiceless. "Help me save Mr. Thompson," she implored. "Help me prove that he matters. Because he does." With every lifted finger and widening eye in the crowd, Emma realized the enormity of what was unfolding. This wasn't just about a life in peril, it was about the very essence of humanity and the bonds that bind them all together. But even as she sought to unite them, turmoil flickered in the air. Emma could sense the tension spiraling back. What would the Thompsons do next? Would they see clarity through the storm, or would they shield themselves behind their wealth? As silence fell like a curtain, she stood on the precipice of change, not knowing if it would tip toward understanding or turn to bitterness. Would they finally choose human connection? Or would her heartfelt plea fall on deaf ears, leaving both families lost in a labyrinth of pride? The stillness was almost tangible, a quilt of uncertainty wrapping around Emma as she locked eyes with Derek. The air between them buzzed with unspoken words, heavy with the weight of expectation. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a dull roar, every heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Derek's jaw clenched as he stared back, his face a storm of confusion and anger. Emma felt a tremor of fear ripple through her, but then she remembered Mr. Thompson. The distant flicker in his eyes fueled her resolve. He was still there, fighting to be seen, and she couldn't let his light extinguish. "Derek," she said, voice firm yet gentle, "think about it. What would your father want? Would he want you to lock him away in silence just because it feels easier?" The challenge hung in the air, both a plea and a dare. Around them, the neighbors shifted. Some drew closer, curiosity sparking in their eyes. Others looked uncertain, unsure of which side to take. Emma caught sight of Mrs. Green, an older woman who often sat on her porch handing out cookies to children. The warmth in her eyes, a flicker of recognition, brought Emma a sliver of hope. Derek hesitated, his brows knitting tighter. "You think you know him so well?" His voice trembled, uncertainty creeping in. "You know nothing of what it's like to be us, to have our name tied to everything we do. You don't understand what's at stake." Emma took a breath, heart pounding. "But you don't have to play that part anymore. You've built your lives around your father's wealth, but what happens when it's gone? What will you have? Your name won't matter if you lose the man who gave it to you. The world outside isn't filled with titles, Derek, it's filled with people. She gestured at the crowd, the neighbors who had stepped into the chaos, their faces reflecting a blend of hope and fear. His eyes flickered toward the group, confusion morphing into uncertainty. What about the pressures? The expectations? He muttered, almost to himself, his world crashing down beneath the burden of privilege. Behind him, a younger Thompson sister wiped her eyes. Emma caught her glance, a twinkle of empathy visible in the depths. "We can change things," Emma urged, leaning closer. "This can be a moment you remember, a moment you stand together instead of apart. Stand for something that matters." The silence felt charged, the collective intake of breaths across the crowd reverberating as they hung on the tension. Emma's heart raced as she took a step forward, her hands trembling yet firm. No one's life should be treated as a transaction. Can't we show each other the dignity we all deserve? Suddenly, a loud voice broke through the tension. "Enough, Emma." It was Mrs. Thompson, her hand hitting the door frame as she emerged from the house, shock written all over her face. "You think it's that simple? You genuinely think a cleaner like you has the right to stop?" Derek interrupted, his voice now steady but conflicted. "Maybe it is about more than just titles." Emma's heart quickened. Had a breakthrough just cracked through the Thompsons' walls? As she held her breath, waiting for Derek to take another step toward his father, she sensed the momentum shifting. The crowd swirled in anticipation, thoughts racing. Would they bridge the gap between the privileged and the struggling? But just then, Mr. Thompson's eyes fluttered wide, a desperate gasp escaping his lips. "Help me please." Everyone turned as the reality of the moment washed over them like a cold wave, and Emma felt her chest squeeze tight. What she feared deep down was happening. Would they rally around him and embrace the humanity that connected them all? Or would they let fear dictate their choices when he needed them most? Derek's breath hitched in his throat as the words from his father resonated in the still air. The plea was desperate, raw, cutting through the layers of anger and confusion that had separated them for far too long. Emma didn't move, her heart racing alongside Derek's as the crowd surged with energy, some leaning forward, others taking a step back. It felt like they were all holding their breath, waiting for Derek to react. "Dad," Derek finally whispered, his voice barely loud enough to break the silence. He swallowed hard, searching his father's face, a storm of emotion swimming in his deep brown eyes. "Let me in," Mr. Thompson rasped, his voice broken but carrying an undeniable warmth. "I'm still here. Don't shut me out. I need you, your brother. I need you all." A wave of recognition washed over Derek, the gemstone truth reflected in the pained look on his father's face. The walls he had built around him crumbled just a little, letting empathy seep through. Around Derek, the neighbors watched in silent reverence. "You think I wanted to be like this?" Mr. Thompson continued, his voice shaking yet filled with a vulnerable strength. "There's a weight to what you think being a Thompson means. And I thought I could shield you from it all, but look where that's led us." Derek flinched, the words hitting home. He turned back to Emma, who stood resolute in the midst of the crowd, her earnest gaze locking onto his. "Sometimes it's hard to see what's right in front of us when we're buried under expectations," she said gently. "Don't let fear push you away, Derek. You have the power to pull your family together." In that moment, Derek felt a swell of warmth rise within him. The conflicting emotions twisted in his chest, but gratitude seeped in. He took a step toward Mr. Thompson, instinctively reaching out, offering a hand, a lifeline that bridged their years of silence and misunderstanding. "Let's try to fix this," he murmured, voice filled with conviction. "We can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." Tears shone in Mrs. Thompson's eyes as she stepped forward, hesitant but full of love. "Let's talk, really talk, about everything. Together." Just as Derek prepared to clasp his father's hand, an unexpected shout rang through the crowd. "No. It's too late for that." A figure emerged from the shadows, his face taut with anger, a close family friend who had struggled under the weight of their family's decisions. "Do you really think you can turn back time? You've all buried him already. The flicker of gratitude in Derek's heart turned to icy panic. He spun to face the outburst, pulse quickening. The murmurs in the crowd ignited. Was it truly too late? Could one moment really carry the weight of a lifetime's mistakes? Emma stepped closer, her hand brushing against his, a grounding force. Her eyes were ablaze with determination. But what if we prove them wrong? What if we show them that it's never too late? Together, they stood at a precipice of hope and fear, a choice that could reshape their lives. The stakes were rising, emotions swirling around them like a tempest. Was there still time to recover, to embrace the fractured pieces of their family before it was too late? As the crowd held its breath, everything hung in the balance. Would they knock down those old walls together, or let themselves get swept away by the tide of doubt and resentment? The answer loomed just beyond reach, waiting to unfold. Derek's heart raced as he locked eyes with the angry figure. The words slicing through the air hung heavy, each syllable sharp as glass. The crowd's murmurs intensified, a wave of fear and uncertainty rippling through them. He wanted to respond, to defend the fragile hope that bubbled between him, Emma, and his family, but the voice of doubt roared louder. He glanced at Emma, whose face was a picture of fierce determination. It was as if she were challenging the very doubt that loomed over them. "We can't let this one voice drown out our chance," she whispered, squeezing his hand. Derek's gaze fell to their clasped hands, the warmth of her grip somehow silencing the chaos around him. The encouragement ignited a flicker of resolve. "It's not too late," he breathed, feeling the fight swell within. "I'm not just doing this for me. I want my family back." "Then take that first step," Emma urged, her voice unwavering. He nodded and turned back to the crowd. What do you want from me?" Derek called out, his voice steadying. "To keep running? To let the past eat away at us? Or do we stand up? Do we fight?" Silence fell, the weight of his question echoing in the stillness. His father and mother stood frozen, anticipation on their faces, hope eager to break free. It wasn't just Derek who felt the tension, everyone could sense the pivotal turn that awaited. "Fight?" The family friend retorted, bitterness dripping with every word. "This isn't some fairy tale ending where everything is tied up neatly. You can't erase what has happened. You can't just pretend." "But I can try." Derek interjected, his voice rising. "Isn't that worth something? We can't change the past, but we can decide how we move forward. Together." His chest heaved with a mix of anger and desperation. In the depths of his heart, he feared they were indeed too far gone. But the moment with Emma pulsed behind his eyes, the certainty that family was never just blood, it was trust, loyalty, and love, all tied together. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You're right, Derek. There's no magic wand to fix our mistakes," he said, vulnerability pouring from him. "But we can talk. We can open up. We can heal." The tension in the crowd began to shift, a collective release of breath as they acknowledged something hopeful. Derek felt the stirrings of something powerful as he continued, "Let us share our truths. Share our pain. It's time we build something new. I don't want the weight of our past to crush us anymore." There was a brief pause, a moment where even the air felt electric. The family friend, now noticeably quieter, looked conflicted, doubt creeping into his expression. Mrs. Thompson stepped to Derek's side, her voice now full of warmth and resolve. "Let us be willing to bear our scars so we can find ourselves again, together." A nod echoed within the crowd, a collective agreement forming. The walls were still tall, but perhaps a window of opportunity opened, fragile, yet shimmering with potential. As Derek turned to face his father again, he felt a rush of nerves ripple through him. "So, Dad, are we ready?" The answer rested heavily in the air, their next move crucial. He could feel the crowd hold their breath once more, waiting for a decision that could redefine everything. Just then, a single tear rolled down his father's cheek, a flicker of hope igniting amongst the shadows. Would it be enough to see them through? But before he could find out, the silence shattered again, this time by a new voice echoing from the edge of the crowd. You can't be serious. What if you end up hurting each other more? With apprehension flooding back, Derek faced the new challenger, the unease flooding his veins. Would they have the strength to fight through the wavering fears, or would they collapse under the weight of uncertainty once more? Derek felt his heart drop at the voice slicing through the fragile moment they had created. The uncertainty echoed in the crowd, but he couldn't let it shatter them. Emma tightened her grip on his hand, grounding him as he faced the skeptic. Who are you to decide what's too risky? Derek shot back, his anger igniting. We've already lost so much. Are you really suggesting we just sit back and let fear win? The challenger, a young woman with wild curls and piercing eyes, crossed her arms defiantly. I just don't want to see you all end up in pieces again. What if this attempt to heal becomes another wound? What if? Derek interrupted, his voice rising. What if we actually succeed? What if we find a way to understand each other? I'd rather risk getting hurt than do nothing at all. Derek could sense a shift in the crowd. People started to nod, murmurs of agreement woven into the air. Could this be the moment where doubts started to wane? Let us stop circling around our fears, Emma added, stepping forward beside Derek, her fire igniting a new wave of courage. Hiding won't change anything. It's time to confront what we've allowed to divide us. Derek looked at her, feeling powerful under her gaze. Together, they were delving into something deeper than just family or friendship. They were touching the raw fabric of community where wounds ran deep. Okay, Mr. Thompson said, his voice suddenly firm. Let us have this out. No more dodging. Let us air our grievances so we can finally lay them to rest. A collective breath held in unison transformed into an unsteady wave of murmurs. Derek's heart raced, but he also felt something else, a buoyancy, a flame of hope. Who wants to start? He asked, his eyes scanning the crowd. What are the truths we need to uncover? The quiet that followed felt heavy. Derek noticed the family friend from earlier, his brow furrowing. I remember the arguments, the looks of disappointment, he finally said, voice trembling. We acted like we were unwound coiled springs, just waiting to snap. Yes. Emma exclaimed, her voice rising earnestly. But what if we talked about our hurt? What if we shared our mistakes? We can't build bridges without acknowledging the gaps. Behind them, Derek's parents exchanged looks. He stepped forward, yearning for the vulnerability he wished they could all embrace. Mom, Dad, I need you to share too. What are your fears? Your scars? Tears began to pool in his father's eyes again, and he took a deep breath. I've spent years feeling like I've failed you all. I distanced myself, thinking it would shield you from my pain. But in doing that, I lost you guys. Derek inhaled sharply, feeling every word resonate. This was it. The heartbreaking, fragile beginnings of a healing process. His mother spoke next, her voice barely audible. I've held so much inside, afraid to speak for fear of making it worse. I thought silence was safer, but I see now that it only built walls. The crowd listened, their breaths hitching at the raw admission. Each pain laid bare vibrated throughout the air, illuminating the shadows that had long lingered. Then the young woman who had challenged him spoke again, softer this time. Maybe I've been too afraid of my own hurt becoming all-consuming. The sound of shared vulnerability was palpable. It pulsed with an energy that turned dread into unity. Derek felt it ignite within him, a seed of hope taking root. Then let us plant those seeds together, he said, his voice steadying. Let us nurture our truths and build something healthy. Because we can't move forward on our own. We have to do it together. With the crowd leaning in, Derek now felt the shift toward building, rather than breaking. The road ahead would be long, but for the first time in what felt like forever, they were starting to share a path. Just as Derek opened his mouth to speak again, the atmosphere transformed once more when a sudden explosion of laughter erupted from a small girl in the crowd. It seemed so out of place. What was she laughing at, and why now? Derek turned, his curiosity piqued. The laughter, pierced through the crowd's tension, now shifted to intrigue. The moment was heavy with questions, and he couldn't help but wonder, what innocence had just broken through their shared sorrow. Derek's gaze shifted to the small girl, her laughter a sweet melody that danced in stark contrast to the heavy atmosphere. She was bent over, clutching a stuffed teddy bear, her curls bouncing with each peal of laughter. Derek felt a flicker of joy spread through him, a reminder that even in the depths of struggle, there was always room for light. "What's so funny?" someone in the crowd asked, a hint of a smile breaking through their serious demeanor. The girl looked up, her cheeks flushed with glee. "I just remembered when my dog slipped on the floor and went zooming into the kitchen. It was so silly." The mention of a simple, goofy moment broke the spell of tension. Laughter rippled back through the crowd, easing the weight of shared grief, if only for a moment. Derek noticed a few faces soften, the corners of their mouths lifting. Emma stepped forward, her voice warm. "That's what we need, a little bit of joy. Sometimes, it's laughter that can help us heal." Derek smiled at her encouragement. Laughter mixed with vulnerability was a powerful potion. It reminded everyone there that they were still human, still capable of connection, despite the pain they had borne. But the girl wasn't done yet. "And guess what? My Teddy thinks he's a superhero. He saves me from scary things like the dark," she announced proudly. The crowd laughed again, this time genuinely. Just as it felt like hope was settling in, Derek caught sight of the young woman, the skeptic, looking uncertain, her arms still crossed. A flicker of sadness crossed her features for a moment before she quickly masked it. "Maybe, we could be a little more like your Teddy," Derek offered, seeking her eyes. "Finding courage in the little things, saving each other from that dark place we've built." The woman's expression shifted slightly. It was a small crack in her defenses, but it was there. Encouraged, he continued, "It's like a chain, right? Each of us can hold on to each other's strengths, lift each other up." "Yeah." The little girl piped up, bouncing on her toes. "Teamwork makes us all better." Derek could see it, the crowd was shifting, hearts opening a little more with each word. The little girl had unleashed a fresh perspective, teaching them they didn't have to dwell solely on hurt to move forward. They could still cherish joy, together. Then, as if a dam had broken, others began sharing their own moments of laughter that had lightened their burdens. Stories flew from one person to another, blending into a tapestry of shared experiences. Mr. Thompson chuckled as he recalled a time he got stuck trying to fit into a car with too many people. "I swear I saw a duck fly past just to see if we were okay." Squeals of laughter erupted at that image. Derek sat back for a moment and surveyed the scene. It was happening. They were starting to weave their threads together. But just as Derek felt the warmth of camaraderie envelop them, a distant rumble echoed through the air. It was faint, but unmistakable. Derek's heart dropped. "Did you hear that?" someone murmured, the laughter quickly fading. The collective gaze turned, pulling from joy to uncertainty once more. "What in the world was that?" Emma asked, her hand tightening around Derek's. Derek's mind raced. Was something about to disturb the fragile peace they were building? Fear crept in, and he swallowed hard. "Stay close, everyone," he called out, trying to keep his voice steady amid the growing anxiety. The laughter faded, replaced with unsettled whispers. What now? What could be out there that could threaten their newfound connection? He took a breath, grounding himself. When he looked out again, he saw determination mingled with apprehension in the faces around him. They were ready to confront whatever lay ahead together. But deep down, Derek couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of their struggle. And as they clung to one another, he couldn't help but wonder, was this laughter a shield or a spark for the challenge they were about to face? The crowd fell silent, a shared breath held in the air. Derek noticed Edna, a woman he'd always seen as strong, now clenching her fists. The faint rumble had transformed the lightness they had harnessed into unease. Fear hovered between them like a dense fog, creeping back into the hearts that had just begun to feel hopeful. "Stay together." Derek called again, raising his voice, brows furrowing as the murmur of uncertainty rippled through the crowd like a sheet of thunder rumbling in the distance. Eyes wide, Emma scanned the surroundings, her grip tightening on Derek's arm. "Do you think it's something bad?" she whispered, her voice almost lost among the growing unsettled whispers. "I don't know," Derek admitted, his heart thumping in his chest like a jackhammer. He fought to keep his own fear at bay, to remain a pillar for those around him. "But we'll face it together." He stepped forward, moving closer to the little girl whose laughter had once dominated the scene. She still clutched her teddy bear, her eyes wide with bewilderment. "Do you think we should run?" she asked, her innocent tone a soft yet alarming contrast to the tension. "No one is going anywhere," Derek assured her, crouching to meet her gaze. "Remember the stories we just shared? We faced those and found strength. This is just another story, and we'll write it together." But even as he spoke, uncertainty gnawed at him. How could he instill courage in others when he felt the shadows looming overhead? A figure emerged through the crowd, a familiar face came forward. It was the young skeptic, the very woman whose doubts had cast a shadow on their light. "What do we do now?" Her voice trembled slightly, vulnerability breaking through her hardened demeanor. "We stand as one," Derek replied, trying to form an anchor. "Each of us carries a piece of this life. It's time to share our strength. No one is alone in this." The rumble intensified, reverberating through the ground beneath their feet as if it too were trying to relay a message. It sent a shudder through the crowd. Eyes darted, breath quickening, but Derek stood firm. He kept watch over the group, seeing flickers of somebody's resolve to replace uncertainty. "Let us not focus on what might happen," he said, voice clear and steady. "Instead, let us remember our laughter and those small joys. They are here right now with us. We'll face this noise, just like we faced our fears." Behind him, Emma nodded. "We're not just stories, we're a community. And together, we can fight anything, even the dark." Slowly, the community's spirit began to thrum with energy once more. Nods of agreement rippled as people started to share their own fears and how they had faced them before. Edna shared a moment of when she lost her home but found a new one. Laughter returned when Mr. Thompson told a story about trying to sleep through a thunderstorm that shook the rafters. But just as they began weaving their fears into a blanket of strength, the rumble gave way to an unnerving crack. All heads snapped toward where the noise originated, the forest bordering their gathering. A flash of something large and dark emerged from the trees, a shadow that moved with a purpose. "I don't think that's just wind," someone shouted as alarm blared in their hearts. Derek felt the warmth of courage wane anew, fear threatening to envelop them again. "Hold your ground," he shouted, trying to keep their spirits high against the growing sense of dread. Just then, the girl took a step forward, clutching her teddy tighter. "We can be brave, right, Teddy?" she whispered and then cried out, "Let us show it we're not afraid." The crowd erupted in a chorus of encouragement, their voices melding into a solid wall against uncertainty. But in Derek's gut, a warning simmered. What would come next? Would the laughter they found be enough to face whatever darkness that shadow carried? The unknown loomed larger than ever, and Derek squared his expression, wondering if he was truly ready for this next chapter, or if they had merely just begun to warm up for the real battle ahead. The dark shape moved slowly through the trees, its movement almost serpentine, as though it could glide seamlessly from shadow to shadow. Derek could feel the energy crackling in the air. It was a blend of fear and hope, uncertainty and determination. He turned towards Emma, her pale face showing the stark contrast of innocence against the growing fear that painted everyone's expressions. "This is where we hold on tight," he said, gently squeezing her hand. Together, we're stronger than anything that comes at us. The crowd quieted, their voices softening into an anxious hush as they all focused on the emerging figure. A low growl rumbled from the depths of the forest, and it sent a shiver down Derek's spine. He took a deep breath, trying to quell the fluttering panic in his chest. Whatever it is, he projected his voice, hoping to summon courage. We won't falter. We're not just going to stand by, we're going to stand together. Edna, her courage rekindled, stepped beside him. If it wants a fight, then it'll get one. But not a fight alone. Only if we stand united, she declared, glancing at each familiar face surrounding her. Derek nodded. As more villagers gathered their strength, he could see their resolve solidifying, their fear morphing into something tangible and fierce. The dark figure lurched forward, revealing itself a creature that looked both terrifying and magnificent. Long, twisted limbs wound down from a broad body, its eyes glinted like amber beads in the dim light. Everyone, back to back. Emma yelled, rallying the group instinctively. Let us protect each other. Derek felt pride swell within him. They were united, they were ready. But as he scanned the crowd, uncertainty crept in. What if the creature was more than they could handle? What if this was the end of their journey, where laughter and stories would be silenced forever? The girl clutched her teddy tightly, ready, yet looking up at Derek with wide, trusting eyes. We can do it. She urged, and her conviction sparked a flicker of hope in him. Just as they positioned themselves, the creature raised its head, a low rumble escaping its throat, but instead of an attack, it paused. Its amber gaze swept over the crowd, as if processing the strength that resonated from Derek and his companions. What does it want? Someone whispered nearby, nervousness creeping back in. Derek stepped forward, defying his own instincts to retreat. Maybe it wants to understand us too. Maybe it's not here to harm but to test our resolve. The creature tilted its head, the forest eerily quiet. Derek felt the tension shift, it was a moment suspended in time. Could they bridge the gap between fear and understanding? Let me try, Derek said, voice firm but gentle. He took a step closer, breaking the barrier of safety the crowd had formed. Emma gasped, but he pressed on. We are not enemies. We're a community that thrives on connection. Before he could finish, the creature let out a booming roar, vibrating through the ground and shaking every soul in the gathering. Fear threatened to hijack his determination, but Derek stood firm. The villagers too held their ground, fear turning into an even more potent force of solidarity. Wait! Derek shouted, grasping at the last threads of courage that hung in the balance. We can find peace in this conflict. Just let us show you what we're capable of. With that, even as the creature loomed dark and fierce, Derek realized this wasn't just about facing a threat. It was about finding a way to connect even with the unknown looming large before them. Would their unity tame the darkness, or would it tear them apart? What lay ahead remained a mystery. Derek stood firm, heart pounding, feeling the intensity of the creature's presence. The crowd behind him held their breath, eyes wide, suspended in fear and hope. Each second ticked like a metronome, amplifying the tension that flooded the air. The creature, colossal and imposing, shifted and swayed, its amber eyes glowing brightly like flickers of fire in the night. It seemed to weigh their resolve against its own power. Derek gathered every ounce of courage he had, knowing that now, more than ever, he needed to speak from the heart. We are all different, he called out, voice steady, though laced with urgency. But we share a common yearning to be seen and understood. We're not here to fight you. We're here to open our hearts and listen. In the stillness, the creature paused, its head tilting slightly as if considering the words that resonated across the clearing. Derek could feel a ripple of energy flowing from the crowd, fueled by each person's collective courage. Emma squeezed his hand tightly, grounding him even more. Take a step towards us. Derek urged, feeling a strange connection to the being before him. Show us you're more than just a shadow. Let us find common ground. To everyone's surprise, the creature moved forward, hesitant but curious. A hush fell over the crowd, breathing out fear and inviting understanding. It lowered its great head, bringing it closer to Derek, curiosity igniting something ancient in the air. Together, Derek continued, letting hope seep into his words. Together, we can break free from the chains of fear and suspicion that bind us. He took a deep breath, willing his heart to lead the way. In a timid movement, the creature responded, releasing a low rumble that vibrated through their bones, not an attack, but a gesture of acknowledgement. The people gasped, their fears pixelating into anticipation. Emma pulled closer, eyes transfixed, wordlessly urging him on. You don't need to roar, Derek said softly, because we see you. We recognize your strength, just like we embrace our own weaknesses. The creature paused again, glancing back at the crowd, its eyes swirling with emotions, curiosity, loneliness, maybe even understanding. The air shifted, electric with possibility. And then, in a moment of raw vulnerability, the creature let out a softer, almost heart-wrenching sound, a plea, tinged with sadness. Derek's heart twinged, and he understood, perhaps for the first time, that their fears were reflections of each other. Show us who you are. He called out, feeling an intense connection blossom in that space. With that invitation, the enormous body began to curl, flattening against the earth as though it wanted to shrink down to their level. It was a moment intertwined with empathy and courage, the shadow of darkness dissolving into a figure who craved understanding. Derek took a fearless step closer, and the rest of the crowd followed suit, forming a wall of unity against the uncertainties they had faced. It was a living tapestry of shared stories, regret, and the unbreakable threads that brought them together. Together, Emma echoed, taking her place beside Derek. We're powerful together. We can all learn. The warmth of her conviction flowed like sunlight over the hesitant creature, wrapping it in a blanket of acceptance. One by one, they began sharing stories of their own hurt and fears. Laughter returned, and with it, pieces of light started to break through the darkness surrounding the creature. A resonance formed, an unbreakable bond where strength lay in shared experiences. It was as if the beast realized it, too, was not alone in its struggles. The crowd breathed in the unity, and safety grew where doubt once flourished. In those moments, Derek felt the brush of disbelief transform into something meaningful. They were forging a new path, not merely for themselves but for every heart that felt fractured and unseen. As the creature nestled closer, a flicker of gratitude passed through its eyes. It wasn't just a truce, it was a collaboration, a testament to the power of choosing connection over division. With tears in her eyes, Emma turned to Derek, her heart radiant with joy. Look at what we've created, together. And just like that, they all knew they had crossed a threshold. The shadows that once loomed menacingly faded into the background. Bound by nothing less than love, empathy, and courage, they found clarity amid confusion. From the ashes of fear, a new community rose, one woven not just from their struggles, but from the light they had ignited together. The creature, now a symbol of their perseverance, became part of their story, enriching it with layers of understanding and compassion. They had faced an obstacle more significant than any one of them had imagined, and by standing together, they had transformed not just their fears but the essence of what it meant to be a family. Derek felt an overwhelming sense of victory ripple through him. Together, they'd chosen understanding over fear, and that was the most vital, life-changing lesson of all. As the laughter echoed in the twilight, a new dawn had arrived. The way ahead was bright, and in the unity of their spirit, they learned that every heart, every story mattered. So, join the journey. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our community. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful conclusion. And please share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread joy, empathy, and courage together. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.